again with this week's part 2 of the video series on how to show more respect in our interactions with patients as healthcare professionals. Now, before I start today's video, I wanted to give a little bit of an apology. I usually do my videos on Wednesday and that didn't happen, obviously. Reason being, we had some issues in the home that we live in where there was a power outage, and we found out it was because our cooktop no longer works. So we got a brand new cooktop installed this morning, so that's why I'll be filming not very far from the kitchen, so I don't think you can see it. But yeah, it's brand new, it's induction heated, and it is much easier to use than the one that we had previously. So a nice upgrade and a lot to look forward to in terms of our culinary creations. Now, what we covered last week was some of the fundamentals of what respect was in our everyday life, how we get exposed to the concept from a young age, and what our connection and the relevance that it has in our life, what respect actually is. But today I'm going to dissect some segments from that episode of Lindsay Lapinquet's podcast on respectful communication in the workplace, and I'm going to be looking at different elements of how that can be applied to our interactions with patients as healthcare professionals and how we can build better relationships with them in the process. So I'll link up the podcast episode in the description box, you can check that out, and contradictory and dynamic. Now, these are all really big words, and obviously the company that I run is called Healthy Dynamics, but we're not going to... It's similar in the same way that what dynamic is in that space, but also over here in terms of what respect is. So, in very simple terms, respect is not a one-size-fits-all. There is no one universal definition of what respect is, and the meaning of respect is going to be different for different people, and also what is considered respectful to one person may be perceived as offensive to another person. And that's why it is a very fluid and unstatic sort of concept. So it is very variable, and it just depends on the context, depends on the culture, depends on the situation. A lot of variables go into what respect is, and it's very much a case-by-case basis and a very scenario-by-scenario basis. So number 2. Now, I'm going to make another reference to a very famous book by an author called Gary Chapman, that is The 5 Languages of Love. Now, if you draw the same analogy, we actually have, and what this podcast episode covered was, respect also comes in different languages. Just like love languages, we also have respect languages. Now, I think Gary Chapman had about 5 love languages in his book. Respect actually has 7 different languages. Now, I'm not going to cover all of them. I'm going to dissect certain elements which I found very interesting, and how we can apply that as healthcare professionals in our communication with patients. So one of the things is that we show respect to others by acknowledging them. So acknowledgement is considered a form of respect, like a respect language, a way in which you show respect for somebody. Now, how we can do that as healthcare professionals is acknowledge what they say, take it seriously, validate what they say. So things like their feelings, their symptoms, the progress they've made, what they're looking for in treatment, and letting them have that autonomy and space to really express themselves and decide for themselves what is best, the best way in which we can care for them while we're really being facilitators to them. So acknowledgement is one of a very universally accepted and common respect language. A form of respect or a respect language is actually punctuality. Now, when you are punctual, so when a healthcare professional, when you are turning up to an appointment or a consultation with a patient and you turn up on time, that is showing that you value the patient's time. And obviously in some scenarios when you're running, your day is very busy and the practice that you're in is very busy, sometimes it's really hard to respect other people's time and really run things smoothly in a punctual manner. If that is a little bit out of your hand, it's always a very wise idea to tell the patient that I appreciate your patience while you were on hold, and thank you for waiting, and that again shows that you are respectful of their time and you're just not just having them by thread. Now, the interesting thing is that I come from a culture, Indian culture, where punctuality is not really what we are very well known for. That's why there's a reason why it's called Indian Standard Time. So in certain cultures, not being punctual is considered respectful. So again, it brings that whole element of how it's different for different people. But mostly in Western countries, so whether it's US, UK, Canada, Australia, punctuality, being on time, doing things on time is very, very, very important, because time is something that we all value and something that not all of us have a lot of. So it's very important that it's a bit of a scarce resource that we have to really show that respect for everybody as much as possible. So now the third one is a very interesting one, where again, this is one of the respect languages, and it's this concept of candor. Now, candor is something that I had heard even before I'd listened to this podcast episode by one of my all-time favorite business speakers, Gary Vaynerchuk, who I'm actually going to see not next month, the month after. He's coming to Melbourne, Australia to do a whole day tour, and I'm going to see him live, so I'm really excited about that. But Gary Vaynerchuk's podcasts and videos, he mentions the word candor all the time, and I was very fascinated to see that actually that is also a form of respect when you show to somebody. So candor is a very tricky one. So candor, what it really means is that you are communicating, in this case with patients, in a way that is nice and respectful and kind, but also you're telling them the truth. You're telling them where they're going wrong, telling them where they can do better, telling them that they're probably making pretty poor choices. So as an example, I can say if you know that a patient is a heavy smoker and they are having, if you're doing a CT scan hypothetically on the patient, and you find out that the lung is showing this and this, and different things, and or a radiologist or whoever you are, and you have to let them know that this is probably because of your smoking. Now, obviously, that the smoker can take that in a very offensive way. They might look like you're attacking them, but that's not necessarily the case. You are telling them in a very constructive and honest manner that this is what is leading to that particular problem. And obviously, if you are in a practitioner space where you're, say, a specialist or a doctor or a general doctor, telling patients to stop smoking is difficult. It's very hard. And that, again, the element of candor really comes into play over there. You have to sort of explain to them the consequences of smoking for a long time, and how that's going to affect their health, but also how to approach them to get them to quit the habit in a way that does not attack them or offend them or make them lose face. So this is just an example of what candor is. So you're giving your patients feedback from time to time on their health. Some of them are not going to be pleasant and happy, so you have to do it in such a way that it's respectful and kind, but also to the point that it's not offending them or belittling them or really sort of putting them down in some way. And the very last one I would say is that hierarchy, status, and power plays a significant role in how respect is viewed in different cultures. Now, again, going back to the culture that I come from, India, doctors and generally healthcare professionals are equated to the level of God. So you will generally see, patients really worshipping, quote unquote, worshipping doctors, and they regard them as lifesavers. So you get a lot of respect for people who are in a position of authority. Whereas in Australia, where I live currently, and I've spent formative years of my life, the hierarchy is not as significant. So we don't live in a culture where you use words like sir and madam and doctor and whatever else. So everyone is on the same level playing field. So over here, you will see that patients can sometimes be very aggressive and very rude and be very, they don't sort of worship the doctor. They feel that it's the doctor's job, or whoever, the physician or whoever the healthcare professional is, they are sort of getting their help and they need to help them. But it's almost like they're expecting a service and you need to deliver it to them. So because the lines of hierarchy are a little bit blurred more in Western cultures, the meaning of respect, again, that a doctor or a healthcare professional gets in these countries is completely different to what you would get in the Eastern countries. It's now just a big reminder again, my name is Shweta, I'm the founder of Healthy Dynamics. We are a coaching practice that helps healthcare professionals from non-English speaking countries improve their communication skills in order to build better relationships with their patients and colleagues and achieve workplace excellence. So hope you found this video useful. As I said previously, I will link down the podcast episode in the description box, so do check it out. And shout out again to Lindsay Lapaquette for making that episode in the first place. That gave me the inspiration for this video series. And hope you guys have a good weekend, and I will see you guys next Wednesday, not Friday, next Wednesday, with part 3 and the final video of this 3-part series.